Well, if you were hoping a new Trump administration would put America first, you might be sorely disappointed this morning. Big trouble in Trump world. In fact, who's pulling his strings? Is it all the big money flowing in? Is that who's pulling his strings here? First, let me give you some of this news up front. This morning, Trump selected South Dakota Governor Kristi Noem to lead the Department of Homeland Security. Now, this is an interesting choice. She is a bit of a steady, she's kind of like rock steady. You might see that as a positive sign, and she's been a longtime Trump supporter. So, okay, you've got that. You need loyalists around him, which is true. She's a rancher. She's a farmer, small business owner. She became famous though when she of course refused to put a statewide mask mandate in place. So like, none of that craziness. But she also famously fabricated a story where she met with North Korean leader Kim Jong-un. Of course, that didn't happen. And back in March, you'll remember, Noem also introduced a bill cracking down on criticism of Israel. What? Like in America, you can't criticize a foreign country? I criticize America all the time. We can't criticize Israel? Can't do that. Ensuring the security of God's chosen people was the name of it. Yeah, ensuring the security of God's chosen people. Okay.
Shouldn't that be all of us?
Right. Like, no, it's just Israel. Israel's God's chosen people. So that's who will be your new Department of Homeland Security head up there from South Dakota. Again, we don't pull any punches on this show. I'm just giving you the facts, okay? Anyway, she'll be in charge of ICE. And her main responsibility will be close the border along with border czar Tom Homan and get the 50 million illegal immigrants out of our country. Stop the spread of fentanyl into our country. So if she does that, I will applaud her wholeheartedly, despite her past transgressions.
Okay.
I will support her wholeheartedly if she secures our border, makes America safe, gets out the illegal immigrants in the United States, and doesn't go sideways. She listens to what Trump wants, follows his lead on this, and also listens to Tom Homan. Fine, we won't have any problems. Okay, now the really bad news. Trump hasn't confirmed this yet. To be clear, we haven't had confirmation yet from the Trump campaign. I've messaged a couple of people there on the Trump side. Haven't gotten any 100% on this yet, unless it's happened within the last 3 minutes and I haven't noticed it. So I apologize. But according to reports, Senator Marco Rubio will be the Secretary of State. Okay, now this is from the New York Times. Trump expected to name Marco Rubio, and then Elon Musk tweeted shortly after this kind of news came out, hey, don't believe anything. Don't believe the rumors until Trump confirms things on Truth Social. Okay, so I'm not going to believe it.
After which I backed off the cliff.
Yeah, I was like, okay, let's back this up. But there have been some other troubling signs in the past few days with other choices. So I'm not backing off the cliff entirely. This would be a disaster. Putting Israel first, that would be Marco Rubio's plan. Warmonger.
Also, Ukraine first. Yeah. He is completely in the tank for continuing the war on Ukraine. He doesn't care who dies.
So he's a warmonger. He would be in charge of the State Department, means pushing us into war with Iran, Russia, China. This guy wants war in the worst way, and he's heavily funded in that way, of course, so that's why. By the way, Trump once said this about Marco Rubio. Marco Rubio is a total lightweight who I wouldn't hire to run one of my smaller companies. A highly overrated politician.
That is before Truth Social, that's a truth.
That's a truth.
We agree with that. Yeah.
That is a truth. Absolutely.
You can't forget that, sir, please.
And Rubio said this about Trump. Watch.
5 days ago, we began to explain to the American people that Donald Trump is a con artist. The party of Lincoln and Reagan and the presidency of the United States will never be held by a con artist. Friends do not let friends vote for con artists. And friends don't let friends vote for con artists.
I can just tell you that a con artist is about to take over the Republican Party and the conservative movement, and we have to put a stop to it. There is no way we are going to allow a con artist to take over the conservative movement, and Donald Trump is a con artist.
Yeah, con artist. So what the hell happened? Donald Trump is a forgiving person, but I think it goes beyond that.
Wait. No, liberals tell me he's not. They say he's got an axe to grind and he's going to go punish everybody that ever crossed him. Yeah.
Yeah.
So then liberals could not have it both ways, right? That either he has an axe to grind and he's very vengeful, or he's not, or he hires Marco Rubio those two things don't compute.
Yeah, I mean, remember when when he beat Hillary Clinton and he got in there and was like, you're gonna lock her up, right? You're gonna prosecute her.
Yeah.
And he was like, no, we need to heal, right? So I don't think he's as vengeful as people make him out to be, and certainly after being shot in the head, I think he's even less vengeful than that. But anyway, so what the hell happened here?
But is there nobody else?
Right, that's my point. But first of all, it hasn't happened 100% yet, okay? You may be watching this later and find out that it's now been confirmed, but we still haven't had confirmation from President
Trump. Or that it's false, or that somebody else takes it. Who knows?
So what the hell happened here? Well, money happened. That's what happened. Sheldon Adelson, of course, fully backed Rubio, fully backed Trump. Hey, Donald, he'll be pro-Israel, so pick this guy. You know, I floated a lot of money your way. So is that exactly what's about to happen here? Or is there another theory, which is that they're floating this idea, there's a leak somewhere, right? Someone floated this idea internally, and it's a way to catch leakers within the Trump team? Could be, right? A lot of big tech companies do that. Like Apple does that. They purposefully leak false information to see who leaks it, and then they know exactly who leaked it, and then they fire that person. Could be. I hope so. Mike Adams, friend of the show, he's tweeted this. Health Ranger Mike Adams says, if Marco Rubio is named as Secretary of State, then every single person who donated money to the Trump campaign should demand a refund. And they should realize that Trump 2.0 is just Bush 1.0. Neocons galore. Endless wars. The swamp is in charge. Might as well ask Dick Cheney to be Secretary of State at this point. And then he goes on from there. He says, by the way, he points out Jeffrey Sachs would have been a great Secretary of State, or Dennis Kucinich.
Definitely.
Keep us out of wars. It's an idea. Just so you understand what a deep state swamp rat Israel first Marco Rubio is, this is how much money he's taken from Israel. Look at all that money. That is, and by the way, that's as of March of this year. Okay, here's maybe a better depiction of it.
Okay,
that's Marco Rubio. Michael Tracy, journalist Michael Tracy says Marco Rubio would arguably be the most hardcore interventionist Secretary of State for an incoming administration in decades, perhaps rivaling Hillary Clinton. Definitely outpaces Colin Powell, who was in the relatively more realist faction of the George W. Bush administration. Of course, Colin Powell got us into the Iraq War by holding up a little fake vial of shit and told us to go to war. Rand Paul, son of Ron Paul, probably our best U.S. senator right now, agrees with the Hillary comparison. Watch.
How do you view Hillary Clinton in terms of her foreign policy views?
I see her as a neoconservative. I see her
neoconservative.
I see her and Rubio as being the same person. They both want a no-fly zone. They both have supported activity in Libya, the war in Libya that toppled Gaddafi, an intervention that made us less safe. They both have supported pouring arms into the Syrian civil war, a mistake that I think allowed ISIS to grow stronger. And they both have supported the Iraq war. So, I mean, what's the difference?
So,
what's the difference between Marco Rubio? What's the difference between Marco Rubio and Hillary Clinton to Rand Paul? Nothing. Nothing is different between the two of them. And I have to agree with him. Even Rand Paul's father this morning, Congressman Dr. Ron Paul, just released this a few minutes ago.
The odds look pretty good that he will become Secretary of State, which I think will lead to problems, because there's two different kinds of people in the world, the way I see it, when I want to simplify it. There are the authoritarians, and there are the people who want to follow voluntarism and peaceful means. And I would put him into the category of authoritarianism because he's expressed himself. And his authoritarianism doesn't mean that he beats up on people. That's a personal thing. But authoritarians in politics is much, much more deadly. Yeah. They have more power, and they can do things. They can change the world. They can, especially in the Secretary of State, they can set the stage for a conflict that becomes very real and very dangerous. So.
Yeah. Look what Antony Blinken, right? Look what's going on right now in Ukraine. Look what's happening in the Middle East under the leadership of Antony Blinken. Coming up in a few minutes, we're going to talk about Antony Blinken, who just went to Brussels right now to try to get more money for Ukraine because he's worried about Trump coming in. So they can set the agenda. They can set the authoritarian agenda. It's very, very troubling. And of course, let me remind you that Rubio was on the record multiple times about he's almost as bad as Lindsey Graham in wanting to go to war with Iran.
So if you don't get a deal, what's the alternative? Do we have to go to war? Is it necessary to be absolutely certain they don't have a nuclear weapon or the capability to build one?
And I think that the best way to have achieved that is to leave in place both the unilateral sanctions and the international sanctions. You combine that with a very clear demarcation to the Iranian regime, and that is this: if you cross this threshold, you will face military action on the part of the United States. We don't want that to happen, but the risk of a nuclear Iran is so great that that option must be on the table.
So if it came to that, that would be an option that you would actually
absolutely
consider and use.
And let me tell you why. If we don't do it, someone else will. The Saudis are not going to sit there and watch Iran build a Shia bomb without a Sunni bomb. The Israelis are not going to sit there and watch a regime that calls for their destruction develop the capability to do so. But again, we would hope to have avoided that point by severely limiting and sanctioning Iran for its nuclear ambitions. And quite frankly, I think this deal could literally lead to increasing the prospects for war.
But what you're saying here, we cannot let Iran become a nuclear power, and we have to do whatever is necessary if that includes going to war with Iran.
By the way, if Iran...
Absolutely.
Okay. First of all, he looks like a minifig. Second of all, that is the policy of the Obama administration, which led to sanctions of mass destruction for 8 years for a nuclear program that we never were able to prove. If you want to read about how demonic our sanctions were with with Iran, read the book The Art of Sanctions, and you will be truly horrified at what goes on our behalf to innocent people, innocent civilians, and why we justify that. That's what the Obamas did. That's how the Obamas waged war across the Middle East. How is he serious about this?
Well, did anybody else catch I had to laugh where he said that, like, if Iran gets out of line and we don't go to war with them, it's bad because if we don't, someone else will.
Yeah.
Right. We've got to do it. We've got to be the ones.
We can't miss an opportunity for war.
Yeah, exactly. Like, damn it, somebody else bombed Iran. Damn it.
Shoot, we wanted to die for that cause. I mean, not me personally, but I wanted to send other people to die for that cause. I wanted that to be me.
There's not drama in this. This is reality right now. If he picks Marco Rubio, you can expect a much more hawkish foreign policy. And, you hear reports that, no, he'll listen to Trump on why would you put a neocon in there who's not aligned with your beliefs to end these wars? Why would you choose a Marco Rubio? I have to hope that they're just floating this out there to test the waters, and they're not going to pick him as Secretary of State. But maybe by the time you're watching this, he's already been selected, and I would be stunned by this. But here's one maybe upside, is that he gets put in as Secretary of State and then he gets immediately fired by Trump. But the best part is that DeSantis will then get to pick a senatorial replacement in the state of Florida, hand-picked. So DeSantis will get to pick someone specifically to replace Rubio in the Senate, and that would be a great thing. Get him out of the United States Senate. So maybe there's a method to this madness.
That would be great. I like this.
I'm a glass half full kind of person.
So then you get him out of the Senate and you fire him from the State Department.
Yes.
And then he's gone forever.
He's gone forever. Little Marco, bye-bye. So Holly Harlett says, bullshit analysis. I'm curious if the analysis you're talking about is Rand Paul, me, or anybody, but just clarify, Holly, specifically what your thoughts are on this. And Radar says Trump has not even been sworn in yet, and we're creating drama.
No, we are panicked because we watch the warmongers and have been doing so. So if this panic is unjustified, we'll apologize for that and say, phew, we dodged it. We dodged a bullet.
Marco Rubio's an amazing Secretary of State. He's ended all these wars. It'd be amazing. And again, I will applaud him if that's the case. But his track record on this is pretty awful.
Okay, let's look at another appointment because Trump confirmed this disturbing pick just hours ago. He says he is happy to announce that Congressman Mike Walz from Florida is appointed to serve as National Security Advisor. He is the first Green Beret to have been elected to Congress, and now he has also previously served in the White House and the Pentagon. So he is a Republican, Mike Walz, but he has said many times that his goals are to put Israel first. He once boasted that Donald Trump is the best president for Israel, and now he's National Security Advisor. So that would be great if he was National Security for Israel, but how can you have alliances like this and represent the United States? This was posted just a few months ago during the campaign, and it's worth reminding us where his priorities are.
President Trump has been the best president for Israel and for the Middle East in our lifetime. ISIS defeated, Soleimani dead, Baghdadi dead, Iran was broke, the terrorist proxies were all complaining they were out of cash. He told China, you keep buying from Iran, you can't buy from us. We've passed sanctions. Schumer won't take them up. You want to talk about election interference? Schumer's interfering with Israel's elections. We have to get President Trump back in as the commander-in-chief. The Jewish community needs it. The world needs it. America needs it. And I just want to take a moment to salute you and thank you. It is relatively cheap and easy to yell at the television, argue with your liberal relatives over Thanksgiving, and post on social media. Get out there, roll up your sleeves, donate your time, donate your treasure, and let's take America back, and let's stand shoulder to shoulder with the greatest ally we've ever known, the state of Israel, as we fight evil all over the world. I thank you. I salute you. Let's fight and win.
Okay, now it's worth noting, of course, he's at a Jewish Republican convention, so he's fundraising from Jewish donors. I get that, right? It also is worth noting that I don't think it's fair to give the United States full credit for defeating ISIS at all. The Iraqis had a large part in that, and so none of us should be victory lapping over ISIS. Also, it is fair to say that Donald Trump was very pro-Israel in his first administration. That is true. He moved the U.S. Embassy to Jerusalem while IDF snipers shot Palestinian demonstrators at the time. So is this indicative that we will have more of that? I don't think most people who voted for him wanted more of that. So we need to watch it. Obviously, we need to. Yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I think we're getting to see the conditions of Adelson's donation.
Yeah.
Right, exactly. So, wake up, people. Again, we're not. If you want like sycophants for your news outlet, then again, you can turn on Fox or you can turn on any of the the conservative stations like that. But we're not going to. We're going to hold these people to account. And if they've gotten money from these sources, and that's how they plan to then roll out their agenda on us and put other countries before the United States, I have a problem with it. Mike Waltz also, by the way, sold his company, $25 million defense contracting company, and he made $25 million off of it with this like spotty record on training Afghan security forces. So he, his defense contracting company made millions off of it and sold it. Fine. He also did take a lot of money from AIPAC. So again, we should hold these politicians to account on where this money comes from and how it drives these politics and puts other countries first instead of the United States of America. Speaking of putting other countries first, the Biden administration has a Ukraine first policy, of course. And of course, the Biden administration right now is freaking out because Trump won. And so they are planning to ask a lot more money for Ukraine before Trump takes office. Now, Trump has said he will end this war and cut off the spigot. There's no love lost between J.D. Vance and Zelensky. I hope that this is the case. This is one of the big reasons to have supported Trump, is to end this war in Ukraine and the massive billions of dollars that have been flowing there. But the Biden administration is like, wait a second, we've got to figure out a way to keep the money flowing to Ukraine. So Biden is going to ask for more money for Ukraine. He's going to call on the United States Congress and Donald Trump to not walk away from the Ukraine conflict, the White House is reporting. U.S. President Joe Biden will appeal for continued funding for Ukraine's war effort against Russia, according to RT. And remaining months in office, White House National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan told CBS News on Sunday about this. The Biden administration intends to use all of the money appropriated by Congress for Ukraine-related spending before Donald Trump takes office in January. Like basically speed up all of the money that's flowing through there. Meanwhile, Antony Blinken is heading to Brussels today for talks with European allies concerned that President-elect Donald Trump could abandon Ukraine in its war with Ukraine. So Blinken is heading to Europe, trying to get them, making sure that they can kind of solidify European support and all the money flowing into Ukraine. And as we were talking as well, there's a plan to try to make this aid by Biden Trump-proof, right, in order to keep Trump from rolling it back.
Well, that's one of the things that CNN was reporting over the weekend. I don't exactly know how you would do that. And they've been speaking about this all throughout the election cycle, saying if we lose the White House, we need to make sure that aid to Ukraine continues. How can you possibly do that? Especially because, as we talked about yesterday, most foreign wars are funded on debt and created money out of thin air. So you can't force an entire nation of people to keep taking on debt and creating money out of thin air. There is a mechanism in place to stop that. Whether or not Congress has the appetite for it or President Trump does is another thing entirely.
And just real quick, this is a very odd piece that Moon of Alabama covered. They do amazing journalism there. Why is the Washington Post reporting that a Trump-Putin call took place when it didn't? And the Washington Post pushed this story, and it's a fake story. And they pushing that Trump was on the phone with Putin right after he won. And even the Kremlin says that didn't happen. And even at the same time it was happening, Putin was giving a speech, like he was like on television when the alleged phone call took place. Putin said, yeah, I'm open to it. If he wants to call me, I'm happy to have a call with him, but he hasn't happened. The Trump campaign says it hasn't happened. The Washington Post, though, is like reporting this, and they put a whole bunch of numbers in this report about how, you know, he reiterated to Putin that we have 50,000 soldiers in Europe kind of ready to go. It's like a piece of like war propaganda from the Washington Post. It's really, really bizarre. And even like the Ukrainian government says it didn't happen. So like, where did this story come from? How did this get planted in the Washington Post? It's like a very curious story. Anyway, I encourage you all to read it. Moon of Alabama does a great job on that, but I wanted to drop that in because it's just very mysterious why they would do that. Maybe not so much.
You're surprised that the Washington Post is lying?
It's like a CIA.
Are you new here, honey?
I mean, it's a CIA front group, right? So is the New York Times. So they just drop these stories in like, hey, we want to remind you, Putin, we've got 50,000 soldiers there, and Trump's very bullish still on Ukraine, and we're not giving up. We're not giving up on Ukraine just yet. Where did this come from? There was no phone call. Anyway.
Okay. Well, the press is calling Melania Trump rude because she turned down an invitation to go for tea, the First Lady's tea. Now, it's a longstanding tradition that the incoming First Lady is invited to tea by the outgoing First Lady. That did not happen in 2020. It did happen in 2016. Now, apparently, Jill Biden has extended the invitation through her surrogates. I don't know how personal it was. And Melania Trump doesn't want to go. And so what do you think? Is that rude or is that fair? I wouldn't want to go. I don't think I would enjoy myself. According to sources, she turned it down because the Biden administration launched a raid on her house. And recall that we had reports that her personal closet was something that they went through extensively. And she does not forgive them for that. Although I said on the show, I would love to see what is in Melania's closet because her wardrobe's fabulous. But again, I should not have the right to do that, and the Biden administration probably should not have done it either. According to a source from the New York Post, this is the source saying she ain't going. Jill Biden's husband authorized the FBI snooping through her underwear drawer. The Bidens are disgusting. So she does not want to do that. And so we'll see. It remains to be seen how much she wants to do this time around because the press was just terrible to her. The future First Lady, she expressed some resentment over the raid, saying it made her very angry, and she called it an invasion of her privacy.
The raid on Mar-a-Lago, the house manager texts you and says the FBI is outside the house. They had access to my bedroom, closets, office, and rummaged through my personal items. Even searched Barron's room, you say. So how invasive was that? Did it make you angry? How did you feel?
Yeah, it made me angry. Yes, invasion of privacy. And the way it was done I was really surprised.
And you told your house manager, just leave it, don't touch anything, don't put it back. You wanted to see it for your own eyes, with your own eyes. What did it look like when you walked back in your house that had been raided?
I saw unpleasant stuff that nobody wants to see it. And you get angry because, nobody should be putting up with that kind of stuff. Some person, I don't even know who, or how many people they went through my stuff.
Yeah. So a judge has dismissed this case we know about over this raid that happened. And she is clearly not over it. And so you have to think about, how would you feel if you felt like this was a political attack on your husband and your own personal items had been gone through? Also, what's a house manager? I want one of those.
That's me. It's this guy. Okay. The house manager. Clean up your crap. I think that's the kids. Put those school bags away. Pick up your shoes off the. It's a house manager.
It's the modern term for butler. They no longer use butler. It's a house manager.
Oh, okay. House manager.
That's cool. Like a house elf?
Need to get me one of those. All right. Well, one of the enduring mysteries of this election is what happened to Biden's 81 million votes. Keep this up on the screen if you would, Philip, because take a look at this, okay? Kamala Harris got the same amount of votes roughly as Barack Obama did back in 2012 and Hillary Clinton. But Joe Biden blew them all away. I mean, it was not even close, right? 81 million. He's the greatest president in American history, apparently, right? The popularity of Biden was just off the charts. You could feel it, right? When you were at the shopping mall, everyone was talking about Biden. Everywhere you went, you couldn't even sit down and have a meal because the excitement of Biden, it was just overwhelming. So where did all of those votes go this time? I'm very curious about this, and I hope we get to the bottom of those missing 20 or so million votes that never went to Kamala Harris, but somehow voted for the excitement of Biden during a pandemic, by the way. Mail-in votes. You didn't have to leave your home. It was so convenient to vote for Biden. So where did they all go? And why were they held back this time? That's what I want to know. Is it because it was too big? It was too big of a turnout? That they realized there's no way we can pull this off. They realized there's absolutely no way we can shove in these additional votes here because no one's going to vote for Kamala. Let's be honest. So Congressman Jordan wants to know exactly where those millions of votes went. Watch as Dana Bash tries to corner him on like election fraud and all of these questions about it. And he just brings up the simple question, where do these millions of votes go?
Rampant voting fraud this time. It seems to me that Republicans claim voting fraud and election integrity when you lose and not when you win.
No. I mean, again, as I said before, this election, I think, was the greatest political comeback we've ever seen. I mean, he did something that even Teddy Roosevelt couldn't do, for goodness sake. And the country.
But you think it was a free and fair election?
No. This election, you just interviewed the Latino, restaurant owner or a restaurant worker, and he said he was tired of all the woke stuff. This election was real simple. You had back-to-back administrations. We got something we very seldom get in American history, American politics. Back-to-back administrations now running for the top job, and people could do a direct comparison. And they said, we like what we had under President Trump versus.
But last time around,
we like the safe streets versus the record
last time around, your leader claimed that there were problems with
secure
fraud
border versus the open border.
Right. Those are policies.
That's what this election was about.
That's totally fair. But last time around, it wasn't so much about the policy differences or the personality differences. There were false claims about election fraud when Donald Trump lost. This time, Donald Trump won, and you think the election was free and fair. Do you see there's a little bit of a...
No, I think the Democrats got to ask, why did we go from getting 81 million to getting 70 million? What happened to those 10 million people? Maybe they needed... Maybe it's not smart to run an election where you have no vision, no record to run on.
Do you believe that the
2024
election was free and fair?
I do.
And why was it different from 2020 when he lost? Is that the only difference?
No, there were concerns about 2020 with all the mail-in voting that happened. You know, Pennsylvania had like 2-point-something million mail-in ballots come in without any signature verification, which was required under Pennsylvania statute. So there were all kinds of concerns with how the 2020 election was carried out. But
there was absolutely
the biggest question Democrats need to be asking, what happened to the 10 million voters that Joe Biden got that didn't come out for Kamala Harris? A bunch of them. President Trump's numbers were right up where they were in 2020, but the Democrats were much lower. I think it's because they had no vision, no record to run on, and they just wanted to call everyone names. Turns out when you you tell people, oh, you're fascist, racist, deplorable garbage. They don't like that. And then when you use lawfare to go after their candidate, they don't like that either. Well, that's why they came out. So on top of the economy, on top of the price of gas, on top of the inflation, that's why they voted for President Trump.
We're out of time.
Yeah.
Okay, two things. Why did she have him on if she doesn't want him to talk?
Right.
Second thing, that's an absolutist argument. There is fraud in every election. Full stop. Why does the Justice Department have 90 field offices to investigate and prosecute this? Do those lawyers just sit there like twiddling their thumbs and playing solitaire? What do? They prosecute fraud that happens every election. So you can't say there's only fraud in the ones that we like, and we're going to deny the ones that Republicans are talking about. What is at issue is what fraud do we pay attention to, and do we catch and we prosecute and allow? That's it. So she's asking really ignorant questions. That's a really stupid interview.
Well, maybe you could, if you wanted to, you could buy her brand new book. Donna Bash has a brand new book out.
Thank you.
It's called America's Deadliest Election. Dana Bash. Could you imagine reading a book by Dana Bash?
No, I would. I read books by Rachel Maddow. I read books by people that I don't like all the time, I don't want to miss what their arguments are.
Side note on the CNN.
But I would get it at the library. I'm not going to give her any money.
Side note on the CNN piece, reports today that CNN is laying off tons of people, and so is MSNBC, like high-profile people. Is Caitlin Collins out of a job? Anderson Cooper?
No.
So, no. I see multiple reports, like a lot of their star talent, their stars, because their viewership has just plummeted. No one wants to watch their crap anymore, so they're going to just have to lay off a whole bunch of people. Anyway, MSNBC and CNN, that's reportedly today. Go ahead, David.
Is her book about the Trump election? Which election is that about? The most dangerous one? Just out of curiosity.
It was about the election of 1872, and it's a cautionary tale about the election of 1872 and how we should make sure that we don't have that similar civil war in the United States because of that type of a leader, of course.
Oh, anyway. You would think that someone who wrote a book about election fraud would know that it happens every election. You would think. Okay. All right. I'm annoyed by that. Oprah Winfrey says that reports that she was paid $1 million to endorse Kamala Harris are, quote, not true. But you can look at the FEC website, the Federal Elections Commission website, and you can find that actually her production company, Harpo Productions, did receive $1 million. This you can find all on your own. Now, here is Oprah being asked by TMZ just yesterday, and she was asked, hey, are you super excited about the election? And she says, I'm not going to talk about that. Do you still support Kamala Harris? I don't want to talk about that. And then she said, and then the reporter asks, well, what about reports that you received $1 million? And she says, not true. Now, those charges those two charges of $500,000 no doubt relate to the Unite for America live stream, which she did in Michigan to rally Michigan voters to vote for Kamala Harris. It didn't work. Michigan went for Donald Trump handily, but she still had celebrities like Jennifer Lopez, Meryl Streep, Julia Roberts, Chris Rock, and Ben Stiller all shilling for Kamala Harris. Now, of course, Oprah has a big production company. People work for her who deserve to get paid. Also, let's take a look at her setting up for this live stream. The set clearly is expensive and she has to pay her staff. So let's think about whether or not what we see here is worth $1 million.
We're just hours away from 8 p.m. Eastern time where we're in Michigan and we have 1,000 screens everywhere you see those little heads there. And 400 people in the audience for what we are hoping is going to be one great big giant voter rally. So getting people registered, getting people inspired, getting people fired up to vote on November 5th with Kamala Harris here as our special guest. If you know somebody, tell somebody, come to the voting rally in Michigan on virtual right now. Some live seats, some people live all over the country. Thank you so much. See you at 8 p.m. Eastern time.
All right, David and Philip. Yeah, I want to ask your
technical knowledge.
Yeah, because you guys set up streaming sets for a living. So do you think that was, I want to hear what you have to say, but do you think that was about $1 million production?
Oh, probably. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
okay.
Thousands
I would
screens
say, yeah.
and all that stuff. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But what I was
at
point out
first
how
when she
racist
said
that statement was.
Oh,
go ahead, Philip.
Oh no! When she said 1,000 screens, at first I was like, "What the hell is she talking about?" I was like jumbotrons or something, but no, she was talking about the. Sorry, my phone rang. She was talking about all the virtual ins, but still, yeah, I could see $1 million for that.
Yeah. Okay. Go ahead, David.
And she called her Kamala Harris. That's racist, isn't it? Like, didn't we?
Right.
Have this
you
whole
intentionally mispronounce her name. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yeah, she did. You're right. So, okay, that was not a free endorsement of Kamala Harris. That was a business deal for her production company, and it didn't work. It turns out that people in the districts don't vote with people in the Capitol. That's another Hunger Games reference that I hope you get, because that was all people in the Capitol telling people in the districts how to, and it's hilarious how much that failed. I'm loving it. Now, Kamala Harris is being excoriated online for the state that she is leaving her campaign finances in. Now, in his book, Ron Paul wrote this, his book, End of the Fed. He said this about campaign debt. He said there was no campaign debt in any of his campaigns because he had a firm rule: never end a campaign with debt. If you lose the election, the debt becomes yours, not the campaign. So are we taking bets whether or not Kamala Harris will personally take that $20 million deficit on her own balance sheet? I'm going to say not, especially since she didn't put herself into that campaign anyway. It was some kind of globalist forces that issued a coup against Joe Biden. So do you think that maybe she'll split it with Tim Walz? Will she do this upstanding thing that Ron Paul has always done? One popular TikTok user says that we should troll celebrities to get that money back. Watch.
So Kamala Harris campaign is in $20 million in the hole. This is after the campaign had raised over $1 billion. And y'all out here having all of these temper tantrums, cutting off your hair, no sex, no kids, no marriage for a woman that couldn't even manage her own campaign funds. Now just imagine if she would have been president and how she would have managed taxpayers' money. We saw how y'all was so proud in raising all of this money earlier this summer for her campaign, breaking records. Y'all were bragging about it all over the social media platforms, just for her to just squander it all away. I think we know where all of that money went. It was a lot of celebrities that came out and showed out for her for some money. They was getting paid. So apparently a lot of vendors haven't been paid just yet because they ain't got no money. And while there's a civil war that is erupting in the Democratic Party right now, they've been blaming one another for the loss of Kamala Harris. They've been blaming Biden, Pelosi. Obama pretty much is, got on a jet. Nobody knows where he's at, hasn't said anything. These people still want their money to get paid. So instead, Trump tweets out how we ended our campaign with plenty of money, so we'll foot the bill of Kamala Harris' campaign. But y'all say he's a racist. So instead of y'all wasting all of y'all energy over here and doing all this crazy stuff, why don't y'all step in for the little guys, since y'all say that this is, the party of the working class people and the party of the little guy. That's what y'all say the Democrats are. And ask these celebrities that she has given all this money to perform for y'all or do a 4-minute speech for y'all, give the money back to the campaign so that they can pay the little guys. Why don't you do that? Go troll the celebrities. This is just crazy, But y'all keep on having your little temper tantrums and everything instead of focusing and looking at the real problems why people did not vote for her. And this was one of them. So deal with it. Trump is your president. All right. Y'all have a good one.
Okay. So her TikTok name, if you want to follow her, is Seavest Gardens 22. Now, Oprah is, in fact, getting trolled, and she doesn't like it, it turns out. But I'm sure she will be back for another candidate in 4 years. She very much feels like she sold you Obama. She's wondering why she wasn't able to sell you Kamala Harris, but she'll try again. So don't get excited.
We reported earlier today that CNN and MSNBC are about to have mass layoffs because their ratings are plummeting. The trust in the media is at an all-time low, and that's where our friends over at Ground News come into play, because we use them every day. It's an amazing service, because what happens is we love using their website and app to basically easily find the truth behind any story. So if you're interested in the immigration story we just talked about, they aggregate related articles from across the world in one place, and then they provide context about each source's political leanings, how reliable their reporting is, and most importantly, their ownership. So you know who owns those publications. You know, is this a multi-billionaire out of some place that owns that publication? I mean, you can literally check out their story, for instance, on MSNBC producer that admitted the network is doing all they can to help Kamala Harris win. I mean, this is amazing. You can study that. Only one liberal source covered this, and they're from outside the United States. No liberal media in America reported the story. It's kind of crazy, right? So you can actually study and understand how they're manipulating the stories. And Ground News does all of that for you to help you put it all in one place. It's a great, really shows you like sort of the blind spots where you're getting your information. So if you've got a friend who shares things on Facebook, you can send them to Ground News and tell them, no. You need to study, my friend. Get 50% off right now. You can just scan that QR code on the screen right there. You can go to ground.news. It's not .com. It's ground.news/redacted. Get 50% off their top tier Vantage plan. It's something that we use every day here on the show. It's a great service. Ground.news/redacted. So thanks for supporting the show. Appreciate it.